Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be showing you how to make this little Dollar Tree advent calendar. Dollar Tree, yeah. All of the supplies are from the Dollar Tree, the little containers, and the only thing that are not from the Dollar Tree is just the paint and the little paper that I use, but those are also things that you can find at the Dollar Tree. But the containers, the ribbon, you can even get cardboard from the Dollar Tree that all of this is connected to, and you can fill each of the containers with little trinkets from the Dollar Tree. Candy, nail polish, even like charging cords and stuff like that can fit inside of these little containers. So you can customize it however you want. It's all up to you. But keep watching to see how we do it.
So the supplies that you'll need for this is a hot glue gun and some glue sticks, or you can use glue like E6000, but the wait time is a little bit. You need some ribbon to cover the edges, and you need the containers, which are these condiment containers that come in packs of 10. So I bought 3 of them so that I can make a full 24. You can do as many as you want, of course. And you will also need some cardboard that you're going to stick everything onto. You're going to hot glue it or use whatever glue of choice. I specifically chose these condiment containers because they come with their own lids, and I thought that was really convenient for making this advent calendar. But if you find some other type of container that works from the Dollar Tree or any store of choice, feel free to use those. This technique kind of applies to any kind of container that you find. So first I'm going to take the containers out and figure out how I want to lay them out on the cardboard. If you're going to try and make like a square shape, you're going to have to do 4 by 6 because that's really the only thing you can do if you're doing 24 little containers. But there's also so many other shapes you can make out of this. Here's me just showing you what it looks like when you make it into a rectangle. But what I end up going with is that tree that you see in the thumbnail at the beginning of this video. I really wanted to do a little tree shape because I figured that would be the easiest way to stack them, and it worked out really well. And you can see here I'm kind of just like lining it up, getting how I want the spacing. And then next you're going to start hot gluing it on. Use a generous amount of hot glue. Promise that you need more than you think you need. So after you're done gluing them all down, go ahead and cut off the excess cardboard from around the containers. I kind of cut off screen, but you get the gist of what I'm doing. So just cut away the cardboard that you don't need. After all the containers are glued on is when you're going to stick the ribbon to the side to cover up the edges. My ribbon was a little too wide for the containers as tall as the containers were, so what I ended up doing is trimming mine down, but this step's optional if you end up finding a ribbon that's like the right width. Here you can see I discovered that I did not have enough glue, and I ended up having to go back and glue down a bunch of them, so I just kind of started going through and pulling some off, and if they came loose, I just added a ton of glue to it. So don't do like me and add enough glue from the start, just add a lot. Yeah, here I go again, just pulling all the lids off and trying to make sure I catch any that are kind of loose because I don't want them falling apart when my husband is opening this advent calendar. This is for him, by the way. He knows what he's getting, but it's still fun anyways. Okay, so once I got all the containers glued down, I used one of the extra containers to kind of measure how wide I needed the ribbon, and then I just cut down along the line of the pattern so that I can have all the ribbon in even length. Once I finished cutting down the width of the ribbon, I kind of just measured it around the tree to make sure I had a long enough piece to cover all the sides, and then I just trimmed it. Next, once I know that I have enough ribbon, I just start gluing it down. You can glue it down to every single cup, or you can do like every other cup, spread it out as much as you want, as long as you have enough glue that the ribbon is not going to slide around or fall off. I pretty much just made sure that every other cup had glue and all of the corners specifically had glue to keep the ribbon in place just so that it wouldn't fall off. I also made sure that the ribbon was glued just below the lip of the container so that the lids can still fit on, because if it's too high it'll be blocking the lid when it goes down, like about 1 centimeter down. So just make sure you keep that in mind depending on the containers that you find to use. I specifically made sure that the ribbons start and ended at the bottom so that that part wouldn't be as visible because it is not the nicest.
So I have a few colors here, and you're probably wondering why. I have 3 colors that I'm going to be, I'm going to be doing these 3 brown for the stem, and then the majority of these are going to be green, but the very top one I want to paint a gold star on because how cute, you know? And then I am going to paint some red dots to look like little ornaments on some of these. So it is going to be like green base for majority of it. So thankfully this bottle is like basically full. But I am going to draw like little green red ornament dotted all around. And I think that would be so cute. You obviously don't have to do that. This is just personal preference. But that's what I'm going to do.
So I just start and paint the containers. You want to make sure that when you do paint, you put a generous amount of paint on the lid because the paint doesn't always stick to it the best. So just give like a generous amount and then set it aside to dry. So I decided to just start with the 3 brown ones because I knew how many I needed for that. It was easier to just get those out of the way first. And then the next 21, I paint all of them totally green, even the one that is going to be the one with the star at the top, because I'm going to just paint the star on top of that green lid. Make sure that you leave yourself a big enough space to lay out all the lids so that they are not overlapping while they dry. Once they do dry, which depending on the paint you use doesn't take too long, if it's like acrylic paint it dries within like, you know, basically a few minutes, but I decided to just go ahead and just stick them onto the lid. I already filled my containers with candy. You may have to do some adjusting to make sure that they all fit in well, and as I was putting them on, my nails were a little long and I accidentally kept scratching the paint off the lid, which wasn't a huge deal. I ended up fixing that later with the decorations that I painted on the front and just covered up those spots that I accidentally scratched off. But yeah, as you just go through, just kind of keep arranging your little trinkets and put all of the lids in place. In the top left corner of my screen, you can see my dog's nose popping in because she was really curious about what I was working on. After I finished putting all the lids on, now it's time to decorate. I started with the red paint, and first I targeted those areas that I specifically scratched paint off and put little red dots to cover up the areas that I painted. I didn't worry about the center circle if I accidentally scratched paint off in any of those areas because I am going to go ahead and put my advent calendar numbers on top. So go ahead and just put whatever you want on there. I tried to spread it out so that there weren't too many that were too close, but I focused specifically on that outside ring of the little circles. Next, I take my gold paint and I paint a little star, kind of just freehand it. I know stars are sometimes hard to paint and mine might be a little wonky, but it's still really cute. I kind of just globbed that paint on there and tried to make it nice and shiny with my little star on top. These condiment containers do have little numbers in the middle, so once the paint dried on this one, you could see the number in the star because I didn't cover it up, but I don't mind it too much. Now you'll see here I took out my paper that I'm going to use for my advent numbers. That's actually origami paper, but you can use whatever paper you want. They sell scrapbook paper at the Dollar Tree sometimes. You can just get construction paper, whatever. I first tried to use the top of a paint container to trace my circles, but then I realized it was kind of creating a weird flat spot on the circle because the paint lid has like a little flat part where the like lid opens up, so that wasn't working out. I tried the bottom of the container, but it just wasn't the right size. So what I ended up doing is just taking one of the extra lids that I had and I cut the center out of it because that's the exact size that I want to use, so I might as well use what I'm going to be putting the paper on, if that makes any sense. But I just used that to trace out as many circles as I could in one row specifically, because what I do is fold the paper in half a couple of times, like hot dog way, if that makes any sense. You see there's like long ways. I fold it in half and then fold it again in the same way, and then I just cut the circles out like that so that I don't have to cut out all of the individual circles. I'm cutting them out as a stack. So I was only able to fit 4 circles in a row based on my paper length, so I just traced out 4 circles and cut out 4 times, and then 4 times 4 is 16. So I just did that twice so that I had enough for all of my advent little circles, lids, whatever you want to call them. I did not do a full 24 because the one with the star, I didn't want to cover up with one of these. I just left that one blank with no number on it because it's the last one anyways. I figured it didn't really need a number. After I finished cutting out all the circles, I just turned them right side up and then I began writing my numbers on them. I use these little paint pens that I got off of Amazon. I know that they do sell like chalk pens at Dollar Tree, and those could work too. Or you can use like a Sharpie. All of those can be found at the Dollar Tree. I use these because I had this cute gold one that I wanted to color on it to match with the gold star on the top. So I just start writing them. You'll see that I have some number stickers to the right of me, your left. I was originally going to use those, but I had 2 issues with them. I didn't have enough numbers for all of them, and the numbers were too big. They did not fit on these little circles, so I kind of just kept them there as reference so that I can keep consistency in all of my numbers so that they all looked the same. And I just freehanded all of this. If you want, you could go ahead and buy number stickers if you don't want to risk freehanding it, or you can use like a vinyl, or you can print your numbers off. I'm sure you can Google number templates and then just print them out and then cut those circles out and glue them on. This part is completely optional. It's however you want it to be. After I finished writing all the numbers, I started gluing them onto my containers. Forgot to mention this earlier, but you will also need a glue stick, or you can use hot glue to glue the numbers on. I preferred a glue stick just because it was easier. I started by putting the glue on the paper and then trying to stick it on, but I had some issues with like the glue drying too quickly. So what I ended up switching to was putting the glue directly onto the lid instead of onto the paper, and that worked so much better. So I suggest doing that if you're going to use this method. Just put the glue right onto the lid. I also started with my numbers 1 at the bottom, so 24 would land on the star. And here's the finished product. I hope you guys like it. I have it hanging up from an extra piece of ribbon. You could place this on a table, you can lean it on a bookshelf, whatever you want. But that's it.
Well, I hope you enjoyed watching this DIY advent calendar. It's super easy, super customizable. You can make it any shape you want. It doesn't have to be a Christmas tree. You can make it a square. You can make multiple little things. You can choose the number that you want. It doesn't even have to be 24. It could be like 12 or 4 or whatever number you want to make it. But if you have any questions or suggestions, leave that in the comments below, and make sure that you're subscribed and you turn on your notifications to see when I post the next video, because I don't have a schedule on when I post these, but I do plan to show some Dollar Tree Christmas gift ideas, a little haul. You know, if you've got lots of people you're shopping for and you don't have enough money to buy extravagant gifts for each person, Dollar Tree is definitely the place to shop. So stay tuned. Thanks. Bye.